So this video is going to be a continuation or part 3 of my Elohim and Anunnaki synchronizations. And in this video, I'm going to focus on 10 deities instead of just 5 or 4 or whatever. So that way I can get more out there. For this video, I'm going to focus on Amuru, Quosh, Reshef. I might even touch on Shala and Shalash, which I touched on a little bit in the last video when I brought up Dagon. I might touch on Shamash, Atar. I might also get into other deities like Milcom or Wer and Gataru. And those would be the deities that I focus on for today. Now, so to start this video off, I'm gonna wrap up the thing with Shalash and Shala, and that is that Shalash and Shala are very interesting goddesses. They're very interesting Elohim that can be traced back to the days of the Anunnaki and were even attested to by the Sumerians or the Mesopotamian. Now Shalash, she was known or syncretic with Ninlil, and this would be what she was known as other than by her own name. She would be seen as the Ninlil of Assyria pretty much, but she is also attested to by her own name because Shalash dates back as far as these gods can go, just as well as her consort Dagon. She dates back just as far as he does. And when we look at this synchronicity, we can see that it is very obvious based off of his syncretisms with Enlil. So we're seeing a syncretism of role by him with Enlil, by Dagon with Enlil, but then we're also seeing a syncretism of consorts where his consort is being syncretized with Shalash in order to show that they're acknowledging her as not just the consort of the Enlil of Assyria, but the Ninlil of Assyria. She is the Ninlil of Assyria. And we see that Shala is known as Medimsha. And we know that this is a deity that is very similar to her, as this is a consort of a storm deity, Ishkur, and this deity is similar to her in that she is the lady of the house, just as Shala would be. She will be one of the Ba'ala, or the Ba'alat. And for Shalash and Shala, their Netjeru counterparts may be Amenet, or it could be Neith, or any deity that we see associated with Amun for the Dagon sync, or even associated with Neper for the Dagon sync, or when it comes to for the Baal Hadad sync with Set, we see that it could be any of those deities. And Anat and Astarte are also seen as consorts of Set. This is also another reason why Baal Hadad is very syncretic with Set. So Shala could also be an early version of Astarte or Anat that was distinct in their own type of worship in Assyria. Next up is Amuru, also known as Quetsu wa Amuru. So Amuru or Amuru is the national deity of the Amorites, and he was attested to not just by the Amorites, but by the Canaanites, the Israelites of Mesopotamia, the Eblites, the Sumerians. Many people attested to Amuru's existence, or to him being a divine being, a deity, and he is known as the Lord of the Steppe, or Ashade. He is known as Bel Shaddai. He is one of the Shadaim, one of the gods of the mountains. He is a mountainous deity, the Lord of the Steppe, Bel Shaddai. This is a deity that has a very close relationship with Ashura. He is seen in some cases as some type of angelic or some type of messenger of Ashura, but also sometimes seen as her consort. And his synchronization into the Anunnaki is, of course, Amuru. Amuru is just like Dagon, and just like Shalash, and just like Baal Hadad, or even just like other like Astarte, known by his own name. Amuru was known as Amuru to the Sumerians, to the Mesopotamians. And as for his Anunnaki sync, that would have to be Men. I think Men is his Anunnaki sync because we see a relief where men is depicted alongside Ashera and Reshef. And I think that this is them acknowledging men in the places that they worship Ashera and Kemet. So they are trying to bring in other deities that are associated with her, such as Amuru, by bringing him in as men, which is another deity that is associated with fertility and sometimes mountains, and being a nomad type of deity. So men is similar to Amuru. But men could also be seen as similar to El, or in a state of just fertility. Like the fertility aspects of men are very much El coded and Amuru coded. And Amuru is also speculated to be a young El, but I'm going to hold him to being a distinct deity based off of the evidence that I've seen and based off of the evidence that scholars seem to bring together. And the ancient attestations seem to acknowledge him as a separate deity, as we know. So I'm going to say that Amuru is syncretic with obviously Amuru, but known as Quetsu wa Amuru by the Elohim worshippers and by the Anunnaki worshippers known as Amuru, and probably known as men by the people of Kemet. Next is another Shaddam. This Shaddam is named Quosh or Deshara in the Nabatean culture around the Arabian Peninsula, but Quosh is the god of Edom. Quosh has been attested to for a while and may have an Anunnaki counterpart in either Semut or Pabosag, because these are the closest deities that resemble Quosh in his rainbow attributes, which is the biggest part of his attributes, other than him being a red type deity, like a deity associated with Mars and even associated with hailstorms. So we know that Quosh has a storm god feats, he has mountainous god feats, and he also has fire feats like akin to Reshef with his arrows and bows. He has the bow feat or the arrow feat that we see a lot of war gods have. So Quoshes are all around very diverse type of god. He is a varied type of deity, but he could be known as a Shaddam, he could be known as a war god, a storm god, and him syncretizing with Semut and Pabosag is based off of his war god feats, his rainbow feats, and a little bit of the red feats. So there is no specific rainbow deity under the Netjeru. That's why I said Sobek or possibly Montu, but I've syncretized Montu with a different deity that I'm going to bring up soon. Now, while Shamash can be syncretic with deities like Montu or some sorts, Shamash, the national Moabite god, who is known in other areas nearby, such as Ugarit, as Zizu wa Kamatu, though Zizu could be a separate deity and Kamatu could just be the name of Shamash. We know that Shamash is attested to by the Mesopotamians as Chemis or Chemosh, and this is the same deity, the same radiant subduer, the same war god. This god is also probably the Netjeru name Sapdu. Now, the similarities between him and Sapdu is that they are deities of the sky, and this is due to him being similar to the deity Atar. Atar is very similar to Shamash, and that's why they are syncretized in later times by the Edomites, and even in the Arabian Peninsula they are syncretized. But we know that Atar is very much Sapdu type of deity, because Sapdu occupies a similar role to him, unless you syncretize him with someone like Heru, but he doesn't succeed like Heru does, or you syncretize him with someone like Set, but he isn't a storm deity like Set is. So Shamash is the best sync for Sapdu, paired with Atar, who I'm going to get to now because I've already covered Shamash in plenty of other videos. But Shamash, his Anunnaki counterpart, is himself under the name Chemis, and in Ugarit he is known as Zizu wa Kamatu, and in Edom he is known as Shamash, and this is the radiant subduer deity, a war deity that defeats Yahweh in the Bible. But Atar is another deity that is hinted at in the Bible and that has his own synchronicities, but he is a very special deity where his synchronicity is with another deity named Ishtaran, which could mean the two Ishtars, which is hinting at the male and female variant of Ishtar. And he is the male variant, Atar. And he is also syncretic with Shamash in some instances, but he is still a distinct deity because they are mentioned separately in Ugaritic texts. And even in other Canaanite texts, they are mentioned separately. They aren't really syncretized heavily until later on. But we see that Atar is Lucifer. This is the devil that we see hinted at in Isaiah, and the aspiring deity that is trying to usurp Yahweh. Atar was trying to usurp Baal Hadad, failed at it, and was met with the council meeting, as all the other deities are, and things got back to normal. He isn't always just this deity that's flopping and failing. His thing is aspiration to ascend. That's what he is the deity of, the aspiration to ascend, the aspiration for kingship. That is the realm that he is governing, the realm of aspirations, you could say. The next deity that I would syncretize from the Elohim to the Anunnaki, and that is very easy to syncretize, even to the Netjeru, is Reshef. Reshef is known as Reshef when he is in Canaan, Ugarit, and when he is known in Kemet. But under the Anunnaki, he is known as Nergal, the god of plagues. And we know that Reshef is also a god of fire because he is taking up a little bit of the Jibble feats or the Gibble feats. He is taking the god of fire feat also. So we know that Reshef has been attested to for as long as the Anunnaki, for as long as the Elohim, and for as long as the Netjeru. He dates back thousands of years. And we know that his consort, Adama, whose substrates are used to make Adam in the biblical narrative or even in other Elohim type narratives, she is known as Admu in her Anunnaki variant, and she would have probably been known as Adama to the Netjeru. And the next deity that I'm going to cover is Milcom, who is known as Milcom or as Malku or Malik from the days of the Anunnaki to being in Ugarit, where he's known as Milku or Malcolm or Milcom in some instances, and then all the way to Canaan, where he's known as Milcom. So this deity has been known as Malik, Milcom, Molech. Even in the Bible, they call him Molech. We see that this deity has been long standing. Next up is an Elohim known as Wareu, who is, or where are you? But Wareu is a war deity that is also known as Wer or War in the Anunnaki. So his name would have been Elu Wareu, or the god of war, when he was in Ugarit or worshipped by the Canaanites, because he is an Elohim type deity, but he is also an Anunnaki named Wer. And lastly, we have the deity Gataru. Gataru could be used as an epithet for other deities like Baal Hadad or Anat, but also Gataru is the name of a deity that is known to the Mesopotamians as Gasaru. Now, Gasaru is a deity that means the powerful one, the mighty one. The powerful one, and this is just to show that this is a war deity or a deity of warlike attributes, or even a storm deity like Wer may be, because Wer may also be a storm deity, and Gataru may also be a storm deity, or just a deity of war, just like Wer. We see that there are a lot of war deities, a lot of storm deities, a lot of dying and rising deities, but that is because a lot of these deities may even be the same themselves, or may represent a different aspect of that type of cosmology. So they may be separating the war aspects into different dimensions, so that way we can understand how these gods work, or how war worked in their world from their understanding. But these are the Elohim and Anunnaki that I was going to go over for this video. I know I didn't get too much in depth, and that's because I'm working on another video where I'm going to go over these synchronicities on a deeper level, but also I'm going to go over stories, the inscriptions, through line that you can see with the characters, and many other things are soon to come. But I just wanted to go over more synchronicities and even get some more out of the way before I hop to those videos that get more informal about each individual deity. But This has been the Bonafide Truth. Stay tuned for more.